Hey there, students. Thank you for being part of this presentation. My name is Luis Silva, and today we're looking at world history, British imperialism in China. The Chinese have always referred to themselves as the Middle Kingdom. And here we have some information that we need to review. And let's read number one. Before the Great Wall is built, barbarians frequently attacked northern China. The years 316 all the way to 221 BC, Qing conquers other states and unites China. In the year 221 BC, Qing Dynasty begins. In the year 212 BC, Great Wall links earlier defensive walls, as you can see there from the map. And in the years 210 all the way to 206 BC, Civil War ends Qing Dynasty. And very important information that you're getting here about the history of China. The Chinese viewed outsiders as barbarians and saw little value in trade with foreign merchants. The Great Wall was built to protect China from barbarian attacks, but outsiders came across the Silk Road for China's exotic goods. As a result, China became the dominant empire in Asia and the world. As you can see on this map, you see the thick red line that crosses from China all the way to the Middle East. That is what we know as the Silk Road. And then we have other thinner red lines that go basically all over Europe through the ocean. Those are all trade routes that carry Chinese goods into that world. And also some of the sources of trade and culture exchange were gems, spices, silk, horses, as well as technology such as gunpowder, glassware, paper, among many other things, including diseases, plagues that became part of the trade network that was happening at this particular time period. China eventually did trade, which helped spread Chinese culture throughout Asia. But outside merchants always had to obey Chinese rules and also show respect. You can see once again the map here. This is basically Ming China and trade from the years 1368 all the way to 1644. And you see all of that movement of goods from China spreading to the rest of the world. In 1644, northern invaders called Manchus conquered China and created the Qing Dynasty. Qing China faced two challenges that would threaten China's future strength. A population boom led to a rise in the number of Chinese peasants and also competition for land. European missionaries and merchants arrived in Asia with hopes of trading with China also. Again, we have in this case a world map, and we see how everything was being traded all over the world. You had movement of goods from Europe to the Americas, from Africa to the Americas, from China to Europe to Africa to the Middle East, and all of this movement of goods exposed China to the rest of the world. In the year 1793, Chinese Emperor Qianlong wrote a letter to answer a request for trade by British King George III. And this is what he said: "Strange and costly objects do not interest me. As your ambassador can see for himself, we possess all things. I set no value on objects strange or ingenious, and have no use for your country's manufacturers." Very important quote, which basically tells King George III, we do not need you because we basically have everything that we need. The Chinese had little interest in trading with the West and were able to reject trade offers. China had a healthy agricultural economy, large deposits of natural resources, and manufactured products like silk, cotton cloth, and porcelain. For decades, China exported goods to European merchants but refused to buy European products. The British were very desperate to find a product that the Chinese would buy. In the 1800s, the British smuggled opium from India into China. By the year 1835, 12 million Chinese citizens were addicted to opium. The Chinese government was very upset and it outlawed opium sales and appointed Commissioner Lin to end opium smuggling. But at this point, there were too many Chinese that were addicted to this particular product. When Britain refused to end the opium trade, Commissioner Lin appealed directly to British Queen Victoria. The British refused to end the opium trade and China declared war on Britain. Britain was very smart and it used its modern navy to easily win the Opium Wars from 1839 all the way to 1842. The Treaty of Nanjing ended the Opium Wars. Britain received Hong Kong and the extraterritorial rights in China. Foreigners were not subject to Chinese laws anymore. And here we have a map of European and American territories by the year 1870. As you can see that Europeans had a good handle of this part of the world. In addition to its foreign problems, China also faced major problems with its own people. By 1850, China's population grew so rapidly that agriculture could not keep up. In 1853, Han Shikam led the Taiping Rebellion in an attempt to end poverty among peasants. The Qing defeated the rebels in 1864, but the rebellion killed 20 million people and basically weakened China. Britain and other industrial powers took advantage of China's weaknesses to force China to sign unequal trade treaties in particular ports. And here on the map we have China, spheres of influence, and the treaty ports by the year 1900. You see the countries that are heavily involved in the area, such as the British, the French, the Germans, the Japanese, the Russians also. They all had a stake basically in different areas of China. By the year 1900, China was carved up into series of spheres of influence, areas where a foreign nation had exclusive trading rights, and we just mentioned some of those countries that had influence over China. The divisions of China worried the United States that it would be shut out of Chinese trade. In 1899, the U.S. proposed an open door policy in China so merchants from all nations can trade freely. The growth of foreign influence, poverty among peasants, and Christianity upset many Chinese. In 1900, frustrated Chinese led the Boxer Rebellion to expel foreigners from China. And here you have some of those images that demonstrate this conflict, the Boxer Rebellion. And obviously, people with guns would always win. You see the Chinese with swords there and basically unable to do much. An army of 19,000 British, French, American soldiers finally ended the Boxer Rebellion. The power of foreign imperialists and the violence of the Boxer Rebellion led to calls to reform China. Reformers looked to the West for ways to fix China. In 1911, Sun Yat-sen led an overthrow of the Qing Dynasty and created a democracy with a written constitution. Sun's goal was to promote nationalism, democracy, and economic security for all Chinese citizens. Over 3,000 years of dynasty rule basically came to an end. We have come to the end of this presentation. Please make sure to subscribe, and I will see you in the next presentation.